everyone. Welcome to the podcast. This week, I thought I would answer questions from my students on a variety of topics. So let me just list those out for you. We're going to talk about lesson structure. I got a couple of good questions about lesson structure, how to make the most of your lesson time. Some actual voice questions, some training things. What do you do? Warm-ups, that kind of thing. Especially belting. Belting is really confusing. I get that. I have a couple of questions on stagecraft, like how to work the stage. What do you say? Transitions. How do you move? Those kinds of questions. Also, I have great questions on Alexander technique. I know that's in the in the zeitgeist of popular culture right now, and it's something that I've been studying for about a decade, really now, and I'm almost in my. Well, I am in my third year. I'm almost certified to be a teacher of Alexander technique, and it's been a great study, and I'd love to tell you more about it. So we're going to go through that. Then I've got a category called career, just sort of general career questions, and then some more specific marketing questions that I thought we'd get into. So let's go back, and we're going to start with lesson structure. The first one is, how can I improve scheduling my practices? And I really think this question, how do you make time for it? I always say that you have to schedule your priorities first. Have you ever seen the exercise where they have like a big glass jar or something and some rocks? And they tell you to put the big rocks in first. Like those are your priorities. Then you put in other littler rocks that maybe are fun to do or that you'd like to do. But the big rocks go in first. And then there's things like, pebbles, and then the sand gets filled up with all the other things. But the big rocks, the ones that are really important to you, that's what you schedule. And if you're trying to do this, this music industry thing, if you're trying to do this career thing to be a singer and an artist, that's one kind of time commitment. That's probably more than if you are just a hobbyist. What are your goals? My question for your practice time is, what are your goals? And the amount of practice and the amount of scheduling should be commensurate with what you're trying to accomplish, right? So how long you should practice is, again, just sort of based on what you're trying to get out of it. But, if you're going to go for like a 3-day-a-week kind of thing, I would certainly find the days that you have a good chunk of time, and whether you break it up into 30 minutes here, an hour here, an hour later in the day, or you want to do like a 2 to 3 hour, session, that's all up to you. But you do have to schedule those things and guard that time as if it were your job. Because in reality, if you want to have a life in this industry and you want to be a professional singer, then it is your job. Then practicing is not just something that you probably should do. It is a part of your job to build your craft and be really great at what you do, so that there's a level of consistency for you as an artist, that at every show you do, your fans can expect a level of greatness from you. And you want to be able to deliver, because if you don't, you're letting yourself down, but you're letting your fans down, and they're just not going to come back, frankly. So schedule your practice, figure out how much time, what is it you're trying to achieve, figure out how much time, and schedule that in first. The next question is, what can I be doing quickly to strengthen my voice back to where it needs to be? Well, if you've taken some time off, the most important thing that you can do, or if you have an illness or you've just not been practicing, is to get on a regular practice schedule. And whether that is doing, 5 to 10 minutes a day of breathing and singing, in addition to all the other stuff, those kinds of quick things done consistently can really build. But you still have to put in the time for the long practices. Okay, voice. Let's talk about, how can I work on a healthy belt without hurting my voice? Boy, I get this question all the time. And belting is mysterious for some who are not doing it correctly. And it is difficult to teach in that a lot of times singers really want to oversing, overbelt. Belting is not yelling. It's not singing louder. It's not singing harder. It is a placement issue and it is a breath issue. And when I say breath issue, I don't necessarily mean more breath. A lot of times, this is going to sound very counterintuitive, but it's less breath than you think it is because of the vocal placement, right? So it's a really, you want to place the resonance really teeth up, right? Teeth and the rest of your head, your skull. That's where the placement of a belt goes. And so you want to practice in short amounts of time. You don't want to sing too loud. If it feels yelly, it could be, or it just might be you singing louder than you expect. And sometimes that takes a while to warm up to. So don't overbreathe, don't oversing, go up to it slowly. And for heaven's sakes, please warm up before you jump into belting exercises. There's a lot of great ones on the internet and YouTube and streaming. You can find really great exercises, but please warm up your voice before you jump into belting exercises. I know a lot of singers want to just go right in there and belt, and that is not safe and not a good idea. So be sure that you warm up first. Another question about voice in particular was, what exercises are there to blend the chest and head voice to make the flip less drastic, right? So you all know there's that point, it's called a bridge or a passaggio area in the voice where it feels like, ooh, I really got to do something different. And you can go through chest voice sometimes, and if you really push, that's where that you get in danger of that belt. You don't want to be pushing up through that to try and belt. And sometimes it does need to flip into head voice. Other times you can learn how to mix in that area. So some really good exercises for that are sirens from the top down or bottom up, and watching where that break, that crack is, and trying to move forward in the face, keeping it very vertical, not letting it spread horizontal, not letting the sound drop back. So sirens are great. Lip trills are great. Octave leaps on that NG, so the right? Having that closed sound, do an octave leap on that. That would help. And then I think one of the best ways to really practice that area, right? Getting some control and getting some navigational control in that area. This comes to me from a teacher I had years and years ago, Maestro David Kyle, back in Seattle, Washington. And we did a lot of things, blending registers. And he would say to me, you want to switch into head voice early on the ascending scale, and you want to stay in head voice longer on the descending scale. That refocuses or replaces your air in your placement in that specific area, and it teaches the voice to go through it without the break. And over time, again, it's not a quick, you're not going to do it once or twice and then it's going to be suddenly fixed. But over time, by switching early up into head voice on the ascending scale, and again, staying in head voice longer on the descending scale, you go through that area and you learn to refocus the voice in a better way, and that gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And then you have some really good capability to mix, and you can actually start increasing your belt. Anytime you're going to try and increase range or belt, you just go very slowly. It might be a half a step at a time. You're not going to try and do, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 half steps above where you can normally go, right? That's going to be really, really pushing too hard. So you really want to make sure it's just 1 or 2 steps, like half steps at a time, and then come back down, and then maybe go back up 1 or 2 half steps, the same place that you were, and then go back down, and really making sure that your form and that you're using yourself correctly. Otherwise, you might be in danger of, reinforcing bad habits, and that's always something to look for. Since I've mentioned bad habits, because the Alexander technique deals so masterfully with finding them, becoming aware of them, and dealing with them to allow you to have some choice and to change. Somebody said, "What is it?" Like I heard about it, and I don't know what it is. So my definition, what I think it is, that's part of what's so important about it, and what I think I do through the technique is it's a technique that helps you discover how you're doing what you're doing while you're doing it. I'll say that again. How you're doing what you're doing while you're doing it. So it takes into consideration your form and your habits. Are you aware of habits? Can you make a different choice with these habits while you're actually singing, while you're actually moving, while you're actually doing whatever activity it is that you're doing? It teaches you how to stop becoming physically, mentally, and emotionally reactive. Do you ever notice how you just have these mental patterns sometimes about high notes and you just react to them? Whether the high note is actually going to come out or not, you react to it before it even gets there. So this is a technique that helps you become aware and gives you some choice and some conscious control over those things, not to mention the physical habits that we all do that we don't know that we're even doing. And sometimes even when you video yourself, of course, we all catch ourselves and we're like, oh, I didn't even know I was doing that. But there's so many subtle things that a trained professional Alexander teacher, coach can help you find within your body that you did not know was happening. And when you have more control over those things before they take you over, then your performance becomes better. I think it is, again, a technique that helps you change the negative habitual patterns of the body, mind, emotions, because that's a part of it too. So your body, mind, emotions are kind of one thing that block you. Those are the things that get in that block your performance from being great. And it teaches you how to release creativity. It teaches you how to release more freedom and ease in your body, and it teaches you how to get into flow, right? And who doesn't want to be in that flow state? So I think that's what the Alexander technique is. That's what it's really great at from my perspective, and what I hope to be teaching is a lot of that. I had another question that said, how can I incorporate the Alexander technique more effectively into my daily warm-ups and improve my overall posture and breathing? Yeah, because when we notice bad habits, right, it might be a postural bad habit that you're noticing. It might be a breathing habit that you've had that isn't really allowing you to be supported in your singing. So I think the first thing you can really look for if you're using Alexander technique is really to build the skill of thinking about what you want to do and then pausing, taking a moment to observe your body in your practice routine and notice what's going on. Oh, I did that thing again. Okay, well, maybe could I take the breath and not do that thing that I'm doing? What would happen then? Okay, well, let me try it. And then observe again. Then it's really important that you observe and you notice what's going on without judgment, because the body has been doing this, right? So it's not something that you consciously decided to do. It's something that the body is just doing. So please be careful about judgment. You're just noticing, you're like, wow, that's funny, that's weird. What would happen if I didn't do it? So once you have thought about what you want to do and you've sort of made these observations and questioned, then I think then you have a choice, right? Then you have one of three choices. You can continue to do the thing in the same way that you've always done it. Okay, that's choice number one. Choice number two is you could not do it. You could say, oop, I felt the habit. I'm not gonna sing, because if I just leap into this after I've noticed the habit's back engaged, then all I'm doing is reinforcing the habit. So you could do nothing, or you could say, okay, I noticed the habit and I was able to stop the habit. Now, could I try to breathe and sing with less effort, with less over tensing, with less whatever it is that you're trying to do, without, sticking my neck out or tensing my jaw or hiking my shoulders up? Could I try to do the breath and the singing without those things and see what happens? And then you observe again. Was it easier? What happened? Do I need to take it even a step back? If you just keep launching into singing and the habit keeps appearing, well, maybe you just need to say, could I do this and just take a breath? Could I do this and just open my mouth and pretend that I'm going to sing? I'm going to imagine that I'm going to sing, but I'm not really going to sing. I'm just going to pretend and see if I can even get that far without the habit coming back. Does that make sense? So those are the things you really want to have mindful practice. You want to put some attention on what's going on with the body while you're doing the activity, right? Because all of this is about use in motion. You have to be able to find that freedom to really have effective performance in any regard. So those are things that I think can really help improve your warm-ups, your posture, your breathing. Why does it seem like I always slouch when I'm singing? Well, then you watch in the mirror and you go, okay, well, what happened if I didn't do that and then I sang? What changed? Was it easier? Was it better? Think about what you're doing, watch what you're doing, notice what you're doing, and then do the thing and see if it's different. And again, remember your 3 choices. Do it the same way, which is the same old habit. Do nothing, or you can do something different. Okay, career. Here comes the career section. Got a lot of questions on career because, let's face it, there is no path. Like in some fields, like you take these courses in college, you pass these tests, and you go out and apply for jobs, and the path is pretty clear. But in this business, there are so many opportunities between where you sit as a student, a high school student or a college student, and a really professional career like a celebrity artist. There's so many things in between there that you can do that no 2 people's path will ever look the same. So the first question is, how do you know what a good career or job opportunity is for you? Well, I think as a young person, if you are getting offered a job or an opportunity, the answer is yes. Because any job is going to give you valuable information. Unless, the only caveat to that is if it is something that goes against your core values and core principles, your morals, your ethics. I think you got to know that about yourself. And I would not cross that line with me. I would not want any of my students to cross that line. So with that caveat, I think if you're getting a career opportunity, your answer is always yes, even if you don't know how to do it. You say yes and you figure it out. You get there and you figure it out. You come as prepared as you can, and then you figure out how to do the rest of it. You show up early, you stay late, you work to make sure that all of your parts are learned, and you have everything humanly done that you can before you get there, and you say yes and you show up on time and you do the job. So I think any opportunity, especially at the beginning of your career, is a good move. I think as you age and you get farther and farther in this career, it's what career opportunities really align with your brand, which we're going to talk about because I got a ton of questions about that. So we're going to talk about that. In fact, the next one says, do you have to set a brand for yourself in terms of style, what to expect, etc., or Is having core values and just loving to be real in your writing enough? I don't think just having core values and loving to be real in your writing is quite enough. In this day and age, we're so media driven, it's still so looks oriented. People hear with their eyes. Say that again, people hear with their eyes. And so I think in terms of styles, colors, fonts, how you message, what you say, and how you say it becomes very important. Consistency of brand so that you are attracting like people to you, to your site. So I think the outward communication of all of the branding, your logo, what you're saying, how you're taking pictures, the look of your social medias, all of those things I think are very important. And what I think is the most important, honestly, for branding is your engagement with your fans. To be perfectly honest, I think that if you have a really great relationship with your fans, you can at some point tell them, hey, I'm going to go off and try this really cool album idea, something really different, and they'll go with you if they have a good, honest relationship with you. If it's a true friendship, and if you really have gratitude for them and you show them that, I think they will stick with you. But I do think that the messaging across the board is very important. Otherwise, people get confused, and someone may see you that normally would have liked you, but because of the way you look or because of the pictures that you posted, it wasn't on brand, it wasn't on target. They're going to get turned off by that when everything else you've done, they may have loved, right? So I think consistency in messaging across the platforms is really, really important. The next one says, help, I need gigs. Please help. I also need paid gigs. Help me. I love that question. Okay, look, the thing about getting gigs, and you're going to be frustrated by this answer, is you have to have gigs to get gigs, especially paid gigs. But I think the thing that you do first is if you are a new musician and you don't have gigs, I really think the easiest way to do it is to go out and start networking and sitting in at open mics, which are not paid, but you're only doing, 1 to 3 songs, and you have to build a name for yourself within the local community. If you want to have a business card and go out and meet people and handshake with club owners and venue owners that are going to potentially book you, my first big piece of advice is get ready for a lot of rejection. It's not personal most of the time, and even if it is, there's nothing you can do about it. Most of the time, people are just busy. They, you email them or you text them, and they've got 25 other emails that come in the next 15 minutes, and yours just gets down to the bottom of the list. They've got entertainment booked for the next 3 to 6 months, some of them for a year. Your email is just going to get lost. So continue to reach back out, not too much, not too often. You don't want to be annoying. So I think it's better I love to go in person. When I'm really networking and trying to open someplace up, I like to go in person and meet somebody and shake their hand. And, even if they don't have something, then I keep coming back. I revisit the club. I show up. I keep doing things. I keep posting. Even if you're not working, maybe I'll post something from, a rehearsal or something that looks professional, that sounds at least professional. Run it through some audio gear, right? Sound is a big deal. And keep sending them stuff, just say, hey, I thought you might like to see this 30-minute, they're not going to watch that, 30-second clip of something I've done. It was a song that I heard someone at your club do, and I really liked it. Here's my version. Maybe they have time to watch it. If you want to just go the straight up other way and you want to just cold call people, without getting an agent. And I'm assuming right now, for the purposes of this conversation, that we're really talking about local gigs. And since she said paying, I'm going to assume also that these are cover gigs. So there's a couple of things I think there's a long list, so get your pencils out. Pens, whatever, get your thumbs ready to type. However you're going to take notes. You need a media kit. If you're going to do this, if you're going to just cold call people and you're going to go onto a website, like you decide, I'm going to go and I'm going to pay whatever the subscription is for Indie on the Move, INDIE, on the move.com. Great site, lots of clubs. You're just going to go on there. You're going to do some research and see which clubs fit your style of music. You got to go on and look at their calendar and then start looking at all their acts and going to figure out what their acts, what do they have for media? What do they have for pictures and headshots and all that kind of stuff? What do they look like? Do I fit in with this? What's their set list? And then you find the clubs that you fit in, and then you need a media kit. It needs to be downloadable. You have to have a whole list of, here's the term, downloadable assets, okay? It needs to be mobile friendly. It needs to have very easy navigation, and you need to keep it updated because as artists, we tend to change. We are artistic. We don't like to stay in the same thing. So you really have to be sure you are keeping your media kit current. So a picture that you took 2 years ago probably does not work anymore. Okay. So the actual question here is, should we have a portfolio ready when booking gigs? If so, what does that look like? Well, if you're not going to do it by hitting the streets and you're very, very new, you may not have some of these things. But I do think that you should have something that you have ready for distribution. You should have a digital PDF format. It should all be in there for email purposes. You should have a page on your website that says media, and you can lock it. It can be website or password protected. You could just have a special page that houses all this information I'm about to give you that you can send to people, and it can be downloadable. They have to be able to download whatever they need. Your venue, your bookers or your promoters. You could put it in a private Google folder or a Dropbox folder. Just make sure, again, that it's mobile friendly because a lot of people clearly we're really connected to our mobile devices. So what's inside of this media kit? You should have a biography on yourself. You should have a short one, and you should have a full-length one. You should have a call to action somewhere for booking gigs, for interviews, for collaborations. If you want people to feature your music in something, there should be how to get in touch with you. This is a little bit more. This is even, I think, a special button somewhere that says, book me now, rather than just the contact page. But I think you should also have some contact information and a contact page. Really important to club owners, one of the first questions you get asked is what you're following. So I think you need to have current and updated social media and streaming statistics. It's going to be important for your club owners, your venue owners, to know what your following is. If you have an email list, say, I have 500 people on an email list, demographics, geographically, I have, 150 people in your area. I will be able to email them directly. These are things that club owners want to know that you have already done as far as promoting your own gigs. If you have a lot of people listening to your music, that's great, although I'm not sure Spotify numbers actually translate as well into actually people going out to the clubs. But social media, and especially mailing lists, that will do it. You need to have high res, and by that I mean 300 DPI really versatile photos. And by photos, I mean professionally taken. You need to have 3 to 5 images, I think, that represent your personal brand, right? You need a headshot and you need an artist shot. So a headshot more, sort of from chest-ish up, and an artist shot is something that's really artistic, that really sells your brand. Should have maybe a live shot, maybe a full-length shot, and have 2 or 3 different things that they can pull from. Make sure that they're all high res so that if they want to blow them up, they can. You should have links to all your latest music. If you are doing cover gigs, I believe it's important to have a song list. And I would organize my song list by decade and or genre so that it's very clear and easy to look down and go, okay, well, my club caters to yacht rock. And this person does a lot of jazz. That's probably not going to be a good fit. They want to be able to do that instantaneously, right? An EPK, a lot of people will call this press kit an EPK, and you can put some of this into like a video format as well. Sometimes I think what used to be an EPK was sort of almost interview style with like live clips and sort of a getting to know the artist, but that can pretty much be done, I think, these days with a great promo video. Which you will need links to your music videos or your promotional videos. Live footage, just clean up the audio the best you can and keep it short, very short. 30 to 45 seconds, is going to be great. If you have a longer one for someone that wants it, 2 to 5 minutes. I have had agents that have requested a 5-minute video. I would be astounded if they watched it, but some people say they do. So you may want to have some longer form in case somebody wants it. But I really think that 30 to 45 seconds, really fast clips, the important parts of the song, so the parts that people recognize, and really what venue owners also want to see is your audience participation. They want to see crowd shots, people enjoying what you're doing. They want to hear the applause. They want to see how many people and how good a time those people are going to have in their club. Right? So make sure that you have that all in there. If you have discography, if you have several EPs or several albums, you can list those. And again, all your social media and streaming links should be in there. Any press coverage that you've had, if you've had any interviews in papers or that kind of things, and your streaming links. Social proof, any social proof, like from venue owners or testimonials from people that come to see you sing or your band sing. Like all of those things are really great. Clearly, you need to have your contact information. You also need to have all your branding elements, like your logo, your font colors. Make all of that available to them in a downloadable fashion so that if they want to put it on their marketing, they don't have to keep coming back and asking you for it. Any press releases, if you are like releasing something, that's always important. If you are playing bigger places, you should think about investing some time and making sure that you have a tech writer. So that's, all of the things that you're going to need production-wise, your hospitality. Make sure your stage plot, your lighting, sound, and production cue sheets are there. That's where you spell out everything you need. Then you sometimes in these is day of sheet, and sometimes that's a separate sheet, like what time are you getting there, what time is load in, what time is sound check, sort of an itinerary of the day. Make sure that you also have that. Okay, now we get to marketing specifically. This is always big. How do you even start to market yourself when you really consciously haven't ever before? And then in terms of marketing, here's the second question. In terms of marketing and branding, how does one begin solidifying their brand? How do you make your brand more consistent? Well, so the first thing I just really think this is important is I think you need to spend some time really understanding yourself, your core beliefs and your core values, because that's once you really know. So you can go online, right, and type in list of core values, and you'll get a bunch of PDFs with 8 million words on them. I think it's very important to do an exercise where you pick 20, you narrow it down to 10, you narrow it down to 5, and then maybe you could even narrow it down to the top 3. You really start to get a feel for who you are and what you believe. And I think that's really important. And the thing I want to say about that too is that this takes not only time to really figure out, because if you're a high school student or college student, you're really just starting to figure that out. You're starting to figure out what's important to you, what you believe, where you want to go, and especially musically. Like, let's talk brand and look and what I want to wear. I find that the first year of a 4-year program is just the student starting to get comfortable with the idea of, this is my life and my career and my choice, my songs. Oh, who do I want to be? This is your time. Take some time to explore different songs, different genres, different decades, different styles. Try it on. Some of it will be great. Some of it is like, no, not going to sing that anymore. It really takes about a year to a year and a half to really sift through all of that material. Give yourself some time to do that. Keeping in mind all of these things, like, who am I? What is it that I want to communicate to the world? If I had a platform, if I could say something, what is it that I want to add? You know, those are things you really have to figure out about yourself. And then it comes into more granular things when you're talking about brand and logo. What fonts do I like? What colors am I? What really makes me happy when I see it? Because you're gonna wear this stuff, and this is the communication that you're giving out to the world. This is who you are. You're setting yourself up for the rest of your life. You want this to be sustainable. So you don't want to develop something that 10, 20 years from now you think, ugh, what was I thinking? Right? So I think those are really important things to be thinking about and conversations to have with yourself. And of course, I love journaling because it slows you down a little bit and it gives you some opportunity to really explore those things in your own mind and in your own heart. And that's really important, that you know yourself before you make these decisions and get out into the world, and let the world start by, oh, how many likes did I get? And, I'll let that make my decisions. I think, be true to yourself, be authentic to yourself, figure out who you are first, and do what you do because you love it and you have something to share. And others will find you when you are coming from that place of truth and honesty and vulnerability. Those are the people that will find you. Your fans that feel the same way will find you, and they will love you, and they will stay with you, that your career will be sustainable for the rest of your life that way. So I think that's where you start. It's not something that you do tomorrow. It's something that you start looking at. You start singing songs, you start wearing things on stage, and some of them you go, yep. And again, some of them are like, nope, that was a mistake. But you give yourself the opportunity to learn and grow and figure out who you are. And another aspect of that, I thought this was a really great question. How unique should your stage name be? I have a very unique name, but it's hard to pronounce and hard to spell. I want to be unique, and I'm proud of my given name, but I also want my name to be marketable. How do I go about finding that sweet spot between uniqueness and marketability for a stage name? Okay, well, yeah, this is a great question. Not all of us are born with names that sound artisty, and that's a choice. You could keep your own name. There's no rule that says you have to change it. If you want to think about it, if you want to take on a stage name or a stage persona, I think here's a couple of things that I think are important to think about. You want a personal connection to the name that you choose. You want it to reflect who you are as an artist. So it could have elements of your name. It could have a nickname or sometimes words that are very significant to you. But I think there has to be a personal connection because, again, you're going to be wearing this name for a very, very long time. I do think there's some pluses to originality and uniqueness, like, for instance, will it stand out in a search engine search? You know, that's a really good thing to think about. You know, if your name is, if there are 8 billion other people that have your exact name, you might want to think about how can I change this up to make it more unique so that I will stand out. And again, longevity, right? Will it age with you? Or is it, I see this a lot in artists lately, or is it something when you reach your 50s, you're going to start thinking about how to kill off the character that you've created, right? And that's fine. That's fine. But, maybe in your late 30s or your 40s, like you don't want to embody this character that you've created in the world. So again, I think these are important things to think about before you get out there and solidify something on social media or marketing or whatever. Marketability, another great question and another great thing to think about. I think you have to think about how it will look, how your name will look on logos and on merchandise. And another big thing is just go and search for, check domain availability, right? If you're really at that point and you really want to buy a website and you really want to start, getting out there, you should probably check if you're even going to be able to get a domain that has this name in it. And memorability, right? Is it rememberable? I think keep it simple. Can you pronounce it? I think shorter, catchier names are easier to remember sometimes than really long names. But again, that's not the rule. There is no rule to this. But I just think that those are some things that you might want to consider as you are thinking about, marketing yourself as a professional artist. The next question was, is there a specific day of the week or when is it best to post on my music page? So I think the best day to post on your music page depends on your audience's habits, right? And what platform you're using, because they're different. So you have to learn how to track your engagement analytics. That is going to be key for optimizing whatever time is best for you and your fans, right? So you want to post during peak times. You want to know which form, which types of posts, videos, images, stories, reels, which one of those work best for you on which platforms. Because again, they're all different and you're going to have to look at your analytics for that. You need to then, I think, identify your top performing posts and sort of know that replicating those at least somewhat regularly will enhance and will boost your visibility, right? So post during the highest engagement hours for your specific audience. Well, how do you check that? Google Analytics, great place to start. But there's a lot of social media management tools like Hootsuite. So it's software that can automate a lot of the routine tasks like scheduling posts and tracking analytics. You can set it up to say, I need a spreadsheet or I need some sort of chart that tells me all of the different analytics, and it will provide that for you. Also, AI is really handy and helpful right now for doing those things, for generating graphics and captions so that you just open it up and it's already there. And you can say, okay, well, this is working, this is not working, and you can decide and change your strategies, your social media strategies, but you have to check You have to know what's returning, right? Because you're talking about an investment of your time to create all this content. So why would you invest all your time when you could be writing songs or practicing other things if it's not really getting you a return for your time? Because time is your currency. So look at the analytics, look at the numbers and see what's working for you and make that a science for you. And it's different for every person. So I said there's a lot of different social media management tools. I'm going to run through a list of them. So again, you might want to come back to this. Hootsuite is one. ClickUp, Sprout Social, Social Pilot, Plannable, Buffer, Sendable, Later, Loomly, CoSchedule. There's a bunch of them out there that you can use, and it's really going to save you time. It's going to save you a lot of time, and in this media-driven world that we live in, we need our time back because we need to be doing other things. I mean, unless you're independently wealthy and you can just pay for all these teams of people, and a lot of these are pay subscriptions, but as you grow, this might be something that you want to grow into because I think this will eventually give you some of your time back. And I think the ways that you do this is you A/B test, right? So you would want to post at different times and track which gets better results. Post different types of posts, reels, stories, etc. See which gets better results at what time on what platform. And then you have to really be diligent about checking your audience insights, right? You have to check when your followers are online and when they're engaging with your posts. And then you have to build and develop your content strategy. Right? So you have to experiment, and all of these things just take time and effort to do. If you do them, you will really start to see when you are getting the most response. And again, that really goes back to building your fan base and engaging with your fans. And that's what we're trying to do because you're trying to create a unique you that you find the fans out there who resonate with that style and, song style and genre and the way you speak and the way you move and those kinds of people who are your people. You'll find them, they'll find you, and they'll be with you if you are authentic and you're real with them for the long run. But that means consistency over all of your platforms. So the first thing is, again, I think it all goes back to you have to develop a really great craft. You have to craft your voice. You have to craft your stage presence, your stage craft. And all of that starts with getting in the rehearsal room. So let's take it all the way back. The foundation of all this other stuff, this fluffy stuff and the marketing and the analytics and all of that, it really starts with, are you a great artist? Are you a great performer? Because if the answer to that is no, then no one will come back and see you. If you're great one night and you're terrible the next night, there is no consistency. So all of this is foundationally dependent on whether you are a great entertainer, and that means having mastery over your voice, not hurting your voice, learning the Alexander techniques, and there are a lot of other techniques out there that really focus on mind, body, emotion, connection, and unity, so that you are aware of what you're doing and you're never hurting yourself. You're always building and supporting yourself, and you're being kind to yourself in the process, and you're not judging yourself because all of this takes time. So that was the first week's questions that I just thought I would get in and answer. Thank you for asking me questions. I love answering these things. I love being able to give feedback from my very long, over 40-year career in this industry, and just what I have seen with students and my students who are out there now and working. I just want to be able to give you some good information, and please continue to ask me questions, and I'll continue to do these, and I will see you on the next podcast.